And welcome back. All right, today we're going to talk about the Titans. And I know some of you guys have just joined the class because of some schedule changes. So we're going to do a quick review first. Those of you that have been here and paying attention, don't skip over this. All right, so we're starting at the very beginning of the universe, according to how the Greeks basically believed that it began. We have chaos. This dark, shapeless kind of confusion of matter and energy, out of which comes Gaia, Mother Earth. And Gaia, again, is a goddess, but she is also the earth itself, that is the ground we walk on. Think of it as the planet that's inhabited by a godlike spirit, or something like that. Go and watch the video on Gaia again to get a bigger explanation. And then we've got Uranus, which just kind of emerged out of Gaia somehow in some unexplained way, similar to how Gaia emerged from chaos in some kind of unexplained way. Again, in those videos from a couple weeks ago, I read from Hesiod, our best author on these, and he doesn't really offer much explanation, which is why we spent a lot of time talking about our imagination and how we conceptualize it. And those were those art and writing assignments from those previous Google Forms. Gaia and Uranus together create life. Again, Gaia, a vaguely female goddess, and Uranus, a vaguely male god. And our first creatures are monsters. So first we talked about the Hecaton-Kyries. Again, there's a whole video and assignment on that from last week if you're a little bit behind. And then the Cyclopes, which was just this past Google form, which was yesterday. Giant monsters. So let's think about this. Why do Gaia and Uranus produce monsters at first? Well, first off, we talked about what makes them monstrous. What is it from our point of view that makes them so monstrous? You guys wrote a lot about that. But think it through too. This is part of their story about that is the Greeks, view of how life began on Earth. And the first few attempts at life were problematic. That is, they didn't really work out that well. Monsters that Gaia and Uranus aren't really going to want to deal with. But then also we're going to get these 12 Titans, and that's what we're talking about today. But first, Uranus hated the Hecaton-Kyries. He hated the Cyclopes. He found them to be monstrous too. So he locked them up in the underworld. And this gets a little strange if you think about it, because the world is Gaia. It's almost like the first attempts at life were failed experiments, so Uranus just put them back where they came from. If you want to really psychologically analyze that one, Uranus is afraid. Perhaps he's afraid of being a dad. He doesn't know what his parental responsibilities are, or perhaps he's just so repulsed by their shapes or by their nature. Maybe they really are from birth destructive and evil. Those were some of the questions you guys answered on some of the essays you did last time. But for whatever reason it might be, and again, you're going to need to come up with your own idea in your head, because our authors don't really have much to say about it. They just say he hated them, or he was disgusted by them, or they don't even say, they just say he put them back in the underworld. Now they're going to reappear, of course, because what we see in these early days of mythology, anything that's put in the underworld is going to make a reappearance. Again, think about it a lot like in comic books. When a character dies, they get cloned, or it was a fake death, or they're brought back to life, or they have an evil twin or a good twin, etc. That is, characters don't generally just leave the stories. It happens rarely, but not very, very often. So the Hecaton-Kyries and the Cyclopes have been put in the underworld. And now it's time to talk about the Titans. The Titans look like people. They don't have 100 arms. They don't have 50 heads. They don't just have one eye. And when we see our artist here depicting them, they're going to look like humans. That is, the Titans are the first set of gods that basically appear to be human. That is, when we get to the Olympians later, they're going to be very much like the Olympians. They look like people. They're big, they're giants, but, you know, the same shape as a person. They have names and feelings and cares and desires. They have marriages and family trees. So one way to think of the Greek gods is humans that are just super powerful, like incredible amounts of power, or that the Greek authors and artists had to kind of come up with the concept of what a god is, and they put it in human terms because what else can humans understand than that which is human? That is, perhaps these pictures and stories about the Titans and about the Olympians are our human way of taking an idea that's beyond us, that's supernatural, that's divine, and putting it in terms that we can understand to and relate to. So this brings us into the whole question of, did the Greeks believe in their myths? And there's no one answer to that. First, we're talking about thousands of years of Greeks and Romans existing. Some of the myths that I'm talking about developed over the course of about 1,000 years and then were written and rewritten and rewritten. Some Greeks and Romans probably believed in the literal truth of the myths. Other Greeks and Romans probably didn't believe in them at all. Many other Greeks and Romans probably believed that they had some sort of metaphorical meaning or allegorical meaning, or that the stories are a representation of truths that are very complicated and abstract, and the stories are a way of delivering that information that's digestible. That's something that we can, like, sort of understand. Okay, so let's talk about the Titans. The Titans, there are 12 of them. They look human. They look like men and women. They have names and personalities. So Kronos, who in Latin is Saturn, Kronos, Saturn, same guy. He's going to emerge as their leader. What we're going to see in each stage of this myth is that a young, strong male figure rises to prominence and takes over everything. It's how Greek society existed. There was generally always a strong male king or group of males like oligarchs, or even in Athens with democracy, you would see prominent men rise to power as demagogues or as generals or just as influential politicians, philosophers, etc. Greek society was very male-based. That is, females had very, very little power, if any at all, and they didn't participate in politics. So the myths represent that. We have a strong male that wants to be in control of the universe. And here's the theme. If there's already a strong male in control of the universe, some other young male, generally his firstborn son, is going to try to take that power from him and become the ruler of the universe. So Kronos, oh, and be careful, Kronos with a C or a K is not the same as Kronos with a CH. Kronos with a CH means time. Different god than this god, although many later authors will confuse or merge the two. He's the youngest and most powerful. He wants to take control of the universe, and it's Uranus that is in control. So he has to attack him. He has to try to kill him. He has to try to push him aside, get rid of him so that he can become the new ruler of the universe. And Kronos and Rhea. Okay, so something we need to talk about is, in the Greek myths, gods marry their brothers and sisters. Don't think that Greeks themselves, the ancient Greeks of Athens and Sparta, did this. They did not. Brothers and sisters, it was never okay for brothers and sisters to marry for real Greeks in real historical times. So why is it in their myths then? Well, if you want to think about it in one way, there's literally no one else around. That is, Gaia and Uranus have created life, like there are plants on the Earth. Earth is green. Then there are the Hecaton Kyries and the Cyclopes, but they were failed life forms. They were put back in the underworld. Uranus did not like them. He was grossed out by them. And then there are 12 Titans. And that's it. So Kronos doesn't have anyone else that he could marry. So that's going to be something we're going to see in several stages of the story. Gods marrying their brothers and sisters. Again, don't think that the ancient Greeks themselves practiced this. They did not. Ancient Egyptians, they did. Ancient Greeks, no. You're not going to find prominent Athenians marrying their sisters or anything like that. Okay, Kronos and Rhea, R-H-E-A, Rhea. And generally she's known as Rhea, both to the Greeks and to the Romans. Again, Kronos, also known as Saturn or Saturnus in Latin. Now, he took power from his father. And how he did that is very vague. Here you see him like waving a farming implement at his father. One way or another, he kills him or injures him or wounds him or makes him go away. It's very vague because remember, Uranus is the sky. And if Cronus kills the sky's still there. That is, it's not like the atmosphere of the earth just went away. But you could think of it as this. Uranus is the spirit, the male-dominating godlike spirit that's in the sky, and Kronos takes its power away, eliminates that part of the sky that is that godlike spirit, overthrows him, or kills him. In some versions of the myth, his body will somehow fall out of the sky, like perhaps he could condense himself into some mass and then that could be attacked or killed. Because in many versions, his body will fall to the earth and bits and pieces of it that fall off will be turned into other life forms. Again, in these early stages of the story, it's kind of abstract. You kind of got to use your imagination. But Kronos is worried. Kronos just overthrew his father. So Kronos is worried that one of his own sons will do the same to him. And that this act of eating his own children is going to lead to several other things that happen in the story. All right, so good job, guys. If you've fallen behind, again, try to get caught up. You're going to see some of the assignments today have to do with some review. So, all right, week 3 here in Myth. All right, have a good one.